What does "we're doing it all wrong" mean? It means collectively, through our actions or inactions, that needless suffering is being caused. We can never be perfect. It can never be a perfect world, but there's many things going on that don't have to happen, can be changed. And just because we've done it that way for hundreds, thousands of years, doesn't mean we have to keep doing it that way and for people to keep suffering. So it just what that takes is for us to recognize it and say we've had enough and make changes.
The Edward A. Dixon Gallery here today to open the "We're Doing It All Wrong" exhibition. Um, it's This is the second year for it. Last year we had a couple hundred entries and about 40 artworks that were selected. This year we had nearly the same amount. And really good turnout as far as representation. The artwork is from all across the United States and a couple from Canada. So it's really well represented across the United States. And I think this year um, is a little different than last year. Last year we had a lot of focused um, issues, I guess you would call it. This year I think there's a higher level of what the artists are looking at this year. So the artists are looking at things from a more macro level almost. Last year, I mean, we had artists that did things on avocado farming, salmon farming, and just things that you would never think of that cause a lot of human suffering, but that was the whole point of the exhibition, was to highlight these type of issues. So this year is another great set of artists. You'll be able to look at them here and online at we're doing it all wrong.com. And also I asked a lot of the artists, or I asked them all if they wanted to submit their own video or audio of their piece that I could play for you today. And there's a couple artists in attendance that will also share with you some thoughts about their pieces. So I don't want to talk too long. I'm going to play the video, and then I'll let the artists that are here say a few words about their pieces. So let me start the video, and then we'll go on from there.
I grew up in the bland 50s with the threat of nuclear war feeding a nasty fear worm gnawing the inside of my gut. Anxiety was always in the air, and the image of that horrible mushroom cloud was a perfect poster child for the end of the world as we knew it. Nightmares of being separated from my family and never finding them again after the bombs dropped poisoned many a night. Practicing the totally useless maneuver of duck and cover in school did little to calm me down, and the bomb shelter that my dad wanted to build in the backyard only brought the war closer. I died for a nanosecond every time the air raid sirens were tested. Life magazine had an article about the safest places in the USA to be during a nuclear war, with Chico, California winning the prize. It was later revealed that Minutemen silos outside the town neutralized that claim. The Twilight Zone TV show had several episodes about the hopelessness of life after the bomb, and movies like On the Beach, Godzilla, and War Games flooded the theaters as our culture absorbed nuclear holocaust as a bizarre norm. The country became a giant dysfunctional family with a dark, nasty secret. We were all doomed. As an adult looking back on all of that, the first emotion that came to me was one of betrayal. We were led to believe that not only was possible to survive that epic disaster, but that life would be worth living if we did. The government was dying to play with their new atomic toy and tried to convince us that millions of lives were a small price to pay to defeat communism. At first, I wanted to depict children playing innocently in a forest of mushroom clouds, but decided to simplify the image and to have a boy and a girl dancing around one explosion as if it were a maypole. Since I rarely photograph my own models, I downloaded pics from the internet. It was pure luck to find the boy holding the toy airplane. I think Winston Churchill said that America always does the right thing, but only after trying everything else first. I agree with that. And we may not get it right the first time, but I do believe that we are sincerely trying and we will get to some form of a good way of living eventually.
Hi there, everybody. How's it going? Sorry I couldn't be there. My name is Spencer Fraser. I hail from Seattle, Washington. Welcome to my studio. And Ed, thanks for putting on this great event and to bring the issue of what's wrong out more publicly. We all know that there's a lot that is wrong. Just to give you a little background, I've been painting for 15 years. I'm self-taught. I was a designer before that. I love to work in the Japanese garden. I'm a Japanese garden enthusiast. I work on bonsai and human scale type trees, which I consider to be living sculpture. It informs my work. My work informs that as well. My work's been seen all over the country. I've won several international competitions, and I consider myself a storyteller, and my story is about man-made climate change, which I'm very, very concerned about. I think of all the topics that we're dealing with right now, and many significant items, the most important is this one because it's going to take the most to correct, and the impact of it is existentially the threat to humankind. So I want my work to bring attention, and I want to be a historian, and that in future generations can look at my work and others and say, you know, here's where they were at. Here's what was wrong. So you can see in the background that I deal with different topics. Up in flames right here is the topic of forest fires and felling and logging of forests. Crude oil is about the impact of the oil industry on nature. The eagle has a lot of subliminal messaging behind it, and of course the nuclear explosion is something we're still dealing with. The piece that you guys have there, Fight or Flight, was to address the issues of coal and open pit mining up in Canada and throughout the world. And the geese are in flight or they're in fight, one or the other. You can see that there's three mounds of coal. There's in the machinery, there's a lot of triangulation that was very difficult to set up proportionally. I used some of my Japanese garden experience to kind of place things so that there's harmony in the canvas. The background is man-made. It's so that there's a mechanization in that, and brings up the topic of mankind versus nature. Are we part of nature, or is nature separate? How do we rectify the conflict of living in harmony on the planet? So I hope you enjoy it. If you want, take a look at spencerfraser.com at some of my other work. If you are interested in seeing anything else, ask Ed, and maybe we can bring it in for you to take a look at. And have a great show.
My name is Amy Bumpus. The piece that I have entered in the We're Doing It All Wrong show is called Gaslighting. What I like about the show is that it gives artists the space to address current issues that are hard to look at but are necessary to face. My piece Gaslighting is a direct statement towards the blurry lines between fact and fiction. We need to be able to differentiate between what is reality, what we see right in front of us, and what are lies, and lies that are meant to confuse us. And I believe it's up to all of us to be informed enough to be able to differentiate between what we know to be real and what we know to be lies. Facts matter. Facts are real and they matter.
So we had those comments there. We actually have a couple of artists. We had 3 artists that were pretty close to Ohio. One in Ohio, one in Kentucky, and I think one in Indianapolis. So I would like to invite those artists. Devin, if you want to talk about your piece. Her piece is actually inside the room there, but you'll get to see it.
Yes, my piece is the one inside here. It's the one at the packaged meat. It's called The Price We'll Pay. I'm an artist from Northern Kentucky, and a lot of my work calls attention to the ways in which humans have corrupted nature. And that piece specifically addresses factory farming and our willingness to abuse animals, destroy land, and consume low-quality meat products, all in the name of convenience. Yeah.
And Mark? Yeah.
Hello, I'm Mark. I'm from Westerville, Ohio. I'm happy to represent Ohio in the group.
Oh, wait.
That's it. I'm a long-time amateur photographer, self-taught, and I shoot a lot of black and white film. A little bit of digital, but a lot of black and white film. My favorite subjects are old things, old buildings, old barns, and walking around the city looking for patterns and structure, steps and lamps and railings, and especially shadows. I love shadows. But I don't often take people pictures, only on special occasions. And this was certainly a special occasion. It was the occasion of the Democratic presidential debate in 2020. It was at Otterbein University in Westerville. And my buddies and I decided to walk up and check it out. And I can assure you that there were nutcases of every possible persuasion there. There were these folks, there were the Feel the Burn people, the Yang Gang, the Elizabeth Warren, there were 2 busloads of union people that come from Detroit, and they were blowing whistles and beating on their buckets, and they wanted to be heard. There were the Trump hecklers, and there was a person in a cow costume with a sign that said, "Go vegan or die." So there are several pieces of good news after all of that. The most important piece of good news is everybody behaved themselves. There was no trouble. I didn't see any trouble. I didn't read about trouble. So people, I guess, got their message out, and they were happy with that. The second piece of good news is nobody objected to having their picture taken. The first guy I saw was the big guy with the AR-15, and I asked him if I could take his picture, and he said yes. And then after that, he was the most intimidating guy, and so if he didn't mind, I didn't think anybody else would mind. And I actually saw somebody interviewing him, so he was taken care of by the media, part of getting his message out. The other piece of good news is if you look at that, that is a very inclusive group of people. I mean, there's white, black, there's old, young, there's men and women. You know, for a bunch of extremists, that's very politically correct, so that was okay. And the final piece of good news is the building on the right is our church, Church of the Master in Westerville. And one of the media people, either CBS or CNN, contracted with the church for exclusive use of their parking lot to park their satellite trucks. And according to our pastor, it was a godsend. So that worked out. Everybody, I guess, had fun. I didn't see any politicians there, any of the biggies. I saw Joyce Beatty and I saw Pat T-Berry. They were both congresspeople from Columbus, but none of the presidential candidates or anything like that. Anyway, that's the message. Are they doing it wrong? Yeah, I kind of think so. But, you know, they got their message out. Thank you.
You know, you can just see from the artists that spoke here on the video, I mean, there's a wide range of viewpoints, ideas and issues, and I mean, I could have 100 different pieces in here and still not touch on half the issues that are going on in the world that are causing problems. So I'm just going to keep doing this every year. Like I said last year, I'll keep doing it until we get it right. So, you know, who knows how long that'll be, but we'll see. So thanks again for coming and enjoy the art.